Welcome to the Smarter Science of Slim, the scientifically proven program where you eat more and exercise less to burn fat and boost health.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that.
Hey everybody, Jonathan Bailor and Carrie Brown back with another SANE show. So many S's, so little time, so many questions from users, and great questions. So I'm excited to continue our journey. And Carrie, give the listeners context on this cool exercise we did here.
Can I say hello first?
No, you cannot. You cannot say hello. I'm just kidding.
Well, rats. Hello, lovely people. It's good to be back. So we're doing the few shows we're doing is around on our forum on Facebook, our community forum. One of the moderators asked if they had, time, 10 minutes with Jonathan, what would they ask him? So all of these questions are a result of that question being posed. So
before we get into the next question, I want to just give props. We said forum moderator. So there was this wonderful woman named Rebecca who just out of the kindness of her heart started up this community. Carrie's in there, Rebecca's in there. It's wonderful. I just want to give props. I think when people do stuff like this, they just go out of their way to provide a forum in which people can get help. I mean, heck yeah, man, that's just awesome. And I would encourage everybody, if you're on this journey, start a blog, start telling people about it, get other people involved. Your sanity will become so much easier and more sustainable the more you put yourself out there. Carrie can say this from experience, being the co-host of the show. The more publicly you do this, the more likely you are to be successful.
That is true. And I also want to say, Rebecca, you are wonderful. And also Kyra also does a fantastic job of keeping our sane and eccentric community happy.
So yes, thank you, Kyra. And just one other, we mention this every week, but it's just a friendly reminder that if you do have questions, of course you can post them in that community, but please, before you do, ask them to Google first. There are literally millions of millions of words of Q&A already available on the internet. And if you type Smarter Science of Slim or Calorie Myth or SANE and then your question into Google, you'll probably get the answer. But moving on.
So our first response to the question, what would you say to Jonathan, or what would you ask Jonathan if you had him for 10 minutes, comes from our friend Tom Fleming. And I'm just going to read this verbatim as Tom typed it. He says, I don't know if I'd ask anything at this point. I'm in the 4th week and am eating sane. I'm in the Calorie Myth book almost daily for review and clarification. I'd have trouble keeping composed. I'd like to thank Jonathan for 10 years of study and his willingness to share all of his confusions for less than $20 on Amazon. I want to hug him and sing praises to heaven above. I have hope.
Well, thank you very much, Tom. That absolutely warms my heart. And I think it's awesome also that you said, I want to hug him, because I think I like hugging. I think hugging is important. And I think, I used to watch Sesame Street when I was growing up, and Sesame Street would be brought to you by a letter. Sesame Street today is brought to you by the letter A. I want today's show, and I want sanity to be brought to you by the word hug, because the calorie counting approach, what we've been fed, is the opposite of a hug. It's shunning. Think about the reality television show that's based upon it. It's about torturing people. Really, it is. It's about taking people who are suffering and torturing them into submission. That's not what we're about here. That's not what we're here about in the show, in the book, in anything. We're here to hug and basically say, look, intrinsically, we are good. Our bodies don't want to be diseased. They don't want to be obese. We're not going to become overweight by default if we don't consciously balance calories any more than we will just get cancer if we don't consciously balance carcinogenic substances in and out. Like, that's nonsense. The most common cause of death used to be, in the modern era, natural causes, meaning people didn't die of disease. They just went to sleep once in old age and peacefully didn't wake up. So when you start to beat yourself up or think about deprivation or any of this stuff, man, hug yourself, go hug someone else, get someone to hug you and say, look, this is about pursuing the positive. This is about eating so much of the good stuff that you're not having room for the bad stuff. And it's not about this like precision, punishment, whatever. So thank you, Tom. I really appreciate it. And I send a hug back to you and all the wonderful people that are out there living this lifestyle.
Yay! So the next question comes from Rich Buttiglieri. I apologize if I butchered your name. And he said, I would like to know the science behind why it isn't working for me specifically, i.e. progress measured by tape measure and clothes becoming tighter. The calorie myth has generic platitudes of it takes more time for some or hang in there. Based on my damaged set point after yo-yo dieting for decades, what does science say and why for extra effort or time to see even a single inch difference?
Rich, it's hard for me to answer this without understanding where you're at specifically, but one thing I would recommend is that what may be perceived as general platitudes or generic platitudes might be an admission that that the body is complicated. For example, how many times have we heard stories where someone will go to see a physician, get diagnosed with a condition, and the physician says, you've got 3 months, you've got 6 months, you've got 2 days, and those numbers very rarely hold, right? They're more like approximations, like, oh, you're fine, or you're really in bad shape, or you're in medium shape. There are literally an infinite number of factors that determine your health, your progress, where you're at. Carrie, just recently, right, she had been doing a bunch of stuff, but she had dramatically reduced the amount of stress in her life. And that in and of itself made a huge, huge difference. So I would urge you, first of all, yes, the book has these generic recommendations, and that's because that's the best we can do. And I would caution you, if maybe that makes you dissatisfied, so you go and you type in the internet, how to lose 21 pounds in 21 days, and you find someone or something that gives you a very specific time frame. I would compare that to someone who says, I have this guaranteed stock where if you just give me $1,000, I guarantee I can make you $20,000 in 20 days. If someone said that, you'd probably be like, yeah, that seems a little odd. How can you possibly know that? That seems weird. There's more things involved, like making money isn't that simple and linear. How can you guarantee things like that? I would urge you to look at your health similarly. If people say things that are like, Rich, without knowing anything about you, aka you're reading a book, I don't know you personally, and you specifically are going to see these results in this amount of time, run the other direction. Please run the other direction, because the person is trying to scam you. Hopefully the general guidelines found in the support group as well as in the Calorie Myth book, which are minimize stress, maximize non-starchy vegetables, nutrient-dense foods, are helpful, but in terms of without understanding exactly where you are, providing a specific time frame is something which I would actually not only can't provide, but I would caution you against listening to anyone who could provide it. Does that make sense, Carrie?
It does. It does. I wonder if that has answered Rich's question in any way, but I think it's impossible for you or anyone else to answer that without having his specifics where he's at now in order for you to give the prescription.
Yeah, I mean, so to be very clear, if you want to test if a person is worth listening to, don't tell them anything about yourself and then ask them what you should do to improve your life. If they just answer, I mean, that person does not know what they're talking. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know if Rich isn't eating any vegetables right now, well, then I'd say the first thing Rich should do is probably eat some more vegetables. If Rich is sleeping 2 hours a night, then I would say, well, Rich should probably sleep some more. So the challenge is, again, really, not only can I not provide specific guidance if I don't have specific knowledge, but if someone does provide you with specific guidance without understanding your specific situation, I would be cautious. What we can provide in a general format is general guidelines, but the precise application of those is person by person. And fundamentally, all we're talking about here, Carrie, is self-evident things, right? Eating more of that which provides you, eating more of the foods that provide you with what is essential for life, and the least of foods that are addictive and toxic, and moving your body and minimizing stress. Obviously, to the extent that you can do that, you will be healthier. And to the extent that you are not able to do that, you will be unhealthy. If we want to get more specific, we've got to get more specific on both sides of the equation, AKA not only in terms of what we're recommending, but also who, why, what, where, when, and how the person who's asking for the clarification needs. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. Well, coming up next,
we have a question from Fiona Tatchell White, and I know Fiona is in England. Yay, England. English people, and actually Australians too, have this cute little habit of putting a kiss at the end of everything they say ever. So that's how I knew where you were from, Fiona. So Fiona says, if you start eating sane and your weight and measurements go up, but overall health seems improved, not overweight still, is it possible it's helping one's body find a set point higher than previously? Perhaps one body likes or needs to be a bit higher if it's still healthy and not overweight. You cover set point coming down in overweight people, but how about us lower/normal weight folks? So she's saying... So what I think...
Interpret, yes.
What Fiona is saying is maybe for people who are at a normal, or who think they're at a normal weight, when they start eating sanely, is it possible for your set point actually to be higher than where you've kept it up to this point?
So sorry, this is probably what's called the curse of knowledge, where I'm looking at this at a much deeper metabolic perspective. So two things. One, you can have a set point and deviate from it. So for example, a contestant on a reality television show who needs 2,000 calories per day to remain weight stable, but is being forced to eat 1,000 calories per day, their set point is unchanged, but they will lose body weight on to some point, and then it will just stop. So they have not changed their set point. So what I'm saying here is, if an individual has been a calorie counter their entire life, chances are they have a set point, not chances, they have a set point, and they've been forcibly staying away from it, if that makes sense. So it's like they have to go to the bathroom, but they're forcibly holding it in. So their set point is not changing, except if they go sane and they stop counting calories, they may start eating the appropriate amount of food as dictated by their brain, because your brain is the automatic regulator of calories in and calories out. Because of that, your health goes up dramatically, because instead of eating 1,200 calories of anything, you're eating, let's say, 1,600 calories of beautiful, sane food. You're not overweight. You've never been overweight. You continue to not be overweight, but your health is better, your energy is better, your sex drive's better, your eyes are shinier, your skin is clearer, your hair is more radiant. All of that would absolutely make sense, but it wasn't because your set point went up. It happened because you stopped forcibly depriving yourself and fighting against your set point.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yep. All right, Robin Schreck. and I know this Robin is a lady, so hi, Robin. Her question is, has Jonathan considered putting together a small SANE conference? Robin does event planning and has thought about how helpful it would be for people just starting out to go to a weekend conference, not to just listen to different lectures about nutrition and exercise, but also have cooking classes with Carrie, yay, eccentric exercise class, a yoga class, or some other restorative activities. Robin thinks it would be fun and give people a chance to practice the same lifestyle and have Q&A with experts on the spot.
Robin, excellent question, and also gives me a great opportunity to give you a little bit of context, which hopefully you and all the other amazing listeners will appreciate. Just so you know, we did not pre-screen any of these questions. We actually, neither Carrie nor I actually read through them prior to the shows not because we're lazy. Well, it might be no, just kidding, but because we want to make this as real and as open of a dialogue as possible. And as evidenced by the fact that I think one of our earlier questions was less of a question and more of a calling BS. Or there was a nice one, and then there was another one which was a little less nice. So anyway, so Robin, thank you, and hopefully just listeners understand. We're trying to give you the truth on the spot, stream of consciousness, and hopefully you like that. And if you don't, well, sorry. So Robin, yes, that is an absolutely brilliant idea, and I can tell you that we are working incredibly hard. We've actually been doing a lot of business development work, because a lot of the feedback we've gotten is that people don't need just more science. They don't need more studies. What they need is help applying this information. They need certified SANE coaches. They need apps that take places of calorie counters to help them monitor the quality of food they're eating. They need a step-by-step interactive program rather than putting a 300-page book in front of them. And I can tell you that there is a lot of time, a lot of people, and a lot of money being spent working on the next wave of sanity. And summer of this year, summer of 2014, you're going to start to see some of that. It's going to be amazing. A lot of people are pouring a lot of themselves into this stuff. And hopefully 2015, sorry if this seems slow, but we're about quality over here. So some of this stuff takes time. Having these types of conferences and seminars should start hopefully taking place.
Woohoo! I'm excited. I love cooking in front of an audience. Okay, so Laura Bishop said that she would ask Jonathan if he has researched alternative exercises that can be as effective for people with arthritis or physical limitations who can't do the eccentric exercises in the book.
I want to give a shout out to Dr. Catherine Bertel. So Dr. Kathy, if you were in the previous Smarter Science of Slim support group, you know Dr. Kathy, but she's actually helping us with some amazing business development stuff now. So she is less available currently to answer questions. The reason I mention this is because she has spent decades, literally decades, in the physical therapy, rehabilitation arena. And if anyone was watching our Creative Live course that we did, which if you hadn't, I'd recommend checking out. Dr. Kathy actually demonstrated some variations of our exercises exactly for people with arthritis or physical limitations. So there are alternatives. Can I describe them right now on the podcast and do them justice? Sadly, no. I think potentially setting up some time with a physical therapist would be a good investment, because once you learn these, you don't need to keep going back to that person. They can help you, and they also know then your unique circumstances. But I also, just for what it's worth, we talked about these shows are a chance for us to connect and be open and honest with each other. Hopefully, like Laura's amazing question here, which has to do with people that have physical limitations and arthritis. For what it's worth, if you ever have the opportunity to write a book or do something like that, there are people like Laura, brilliant people out there who have arthritis and physical limitations. And there are other people out there who may weigh 400 pounds and literally can can't really do much. And then there might be a 22-year-old CrossFitter reading the book. So you can start to see how we always try to get you on the right path, but there's only so much we can do in the mediums we have. So Laura, to answer your question as specifically as I can, yes, there are alternative exercise that can be effective. And one of the reasons that I focus on eccentrics is because eccentrics are some of the most customizable and sustainable and lowest impact exercises available to you. For example, contrast a wall eccentric squat at home where you're leaning up against the wall, slowly squatting down, with some of these extreme at-home workout videos, right? Like, you can obviously see one is more towards someone who has arthritis or physical limitations than the other. That said, if you have any sort of specific condition, getting specific guidance from someone one-on-one is probably going to be your best bet.
Thank you, sir. All right, our next question is from Jeanette Schweck, and she says, my personal experience, and that of many others, is that fat is a majority factor in satiety. Where is the scientific evidence for not including fat and only including protein, water, and fiber? If I do not put fat in my smoothie, I am starving in a short time, no matter how much fiber is in the smoothie. With fat, I am satiated. I'm really curious about why the scientific data says otherwise.
All right, Janet, excellent question. So the way satiety is described in the book is calorie for calorie. So fat is absolutely a major player in satiety, but the way satiety is defined in the research community is they look at it calorie for calorie. So for example, what is more satiating? 200 calories of fat, 200 calories of protein, or 200 calories of carbohydrate? And the research has shown quite clearly that if you just compare macronutrient to macronutrient to macronutrient, that protein is the most satiating. That doesn't mean the other macronutrients aren't satiating. It just means that protein has the greatest effect on satiety, and then fiber and water are critical when it comes to the gastrointestinal stretch. So there's hormonal regulators of satiety, there's neurological regulators of satiety, and then there are just physical regulators of satiety. Whereas, for example, if you were to eat 500 calories of olive oil and you were just like really, really hungry and all you did was take a couple tablespoons of olive oil, that's 500 calories, but it wouldn't do anything to your digestive organs in terms of stretching them. So chances are it wouldn't necessarily satiate you. That said, you're exactly right that if you just pound a giant Metamucil shake that has a bunch of water and a bunch of fiber, it's going to stretch your organs out a lot, but it's not going to satisfy you over the long term. So in the broadest sense possible, protein, water, fiber, and fat all, of course, play a role in satiety. The research literature is looking at calorie for calorie satiety, and that is why protein emerges as a leader, because when you compare, for example, they're called isocaloric studies, a 1,600 calorie diet that is higher in protein, or a 1,600 calorie day, you eat 1,600 calories in a day, and it's higher in protein, and then another person or another group of people eats 1,600 calories, but it's lower in protein and therefore by definition higher in either carbohydrate or fat, protein always comes out on top. And of course with fat, please keep in mind that it also has to do with the other things you're eating. Fat, it can actually be the opposite of satisfying if you think about insane fats. So for example, imagine eating just a potato, dry. So chances are that would taste a certain way. Now imagine frying that potato, frying it and then salting it, aka turning it into French fries. You'll notice that not only the same amount of potato will actually satisfy you less, and you'll actually be tempted to eat more because of the addition of fat and salt to that potato. So that is like when we, again, thinking about fat, quality is extremely important. How we're defining satiety scientifically is really important. And again, it's not that fat isn't satisfying, but it is that, let's say, fat is not universally satisfying. If you were to take a potato dry, it is actually more satisfying than if you fry the potato, in which case you're actually adding calories to it and adding fat to it. So fat, high quality fat, critical. That's why we include it in our lifestyle. But is it calorie for calorie and universally more satiating regardless of circumstance? No. Does that mean we shouldn't eat it? No. Does it mean that what we say in the book is scientifically accurate? Yes. Does that make sense, Carrie?
Yep. As always, good job, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, Janet, that was a wonderful, wonderful wrap-up question. We got to tie it up for this week, but we will be, of course, back next week with more lovely reader, listener, and viewer questions. And remember, this week and every week after, eat smarter, exercise smarter, and live better. We'll chat with you soon.
See ya.
Wait, don't stop listening yet.
You can get fabulous free SANE recipes over at carriebrown.com.
And don't forget your 100% free eating and exercise quick start program, as well as free, fun, daily tips delivered right into your inbox at bailorgroup.com. That's Bailor group.com.